We've been in the Spring Lake Hockey Association. This is our 10th season. We certainly never had a season like this, but I have an athlete that's U15, another one U13, and I also like to play hockey as well. So I'm super excited that you're here tonight because what you eat is as important as your hockey stick. So just like you practice your skating, your crossovers, your backward skating, your shooting, passing, toe drags, you actually need to cook in the kitchen as well. And so I'm really excited that you're here tonight. And so think of this as like personal training in your kitchen. So I've given you the recipes and I'm hoping that you and your parent will cook along with me. So if you haven't already, go give your hands a wash. If you have long hair, it should be tied back. We're going to be working with heat today, and so we want to make sure that the heat, your hair doesn't catch on fire, basically. So we have to always be thinking about safety. The other thing that will happen in our third recipe is you should have some shoes on because we're going to be working with a knife, and if something were to, that knife were to drop and hit your foot, we need to make sure your feet are protected because you can't skate with like a cut foot. So, with that, we're going to be doing 3 recipes tonight. We're going to start with a chia seed jam. We're going to do that one first so it's ready to go on our pancake. We're going to do protein power pancakes. So it's going to be kind of a leveled up version of a traditional pancake. And the third recipe we're doing is apple nachos. So you'll see that I also have a recipe in there for pumpkin muffins, and that's going to be for your homework, something that you can practice because it's a similar method. They're both, pancakes are quick breads and so is a pumpkin. So the same cooking technique is actually used in those muffins. And so I'll explain more about that when we get to that recipe. So the first recipe we're going to do is apple nachos. The first recipe we're going to do is the chia seed jam. So that one is on page 8. So if you want to just flip to page 8, this is the recipe we're going to do. This is what we're going to start with. So if you want to just flip right there, there's a couple of things you want to do before you start cooking. The first thing is have a look at the ingredients that are needed. There's nothing worse than starting to cook and then you're popcorning back and forth because, oh, you got to go get that ingredient and that ingredient. So we want to start off a little bit more organized. And so we're going to get our ingredients out. So I've got frozen blueberries. We need 2 1/4 cups. So we're going to measure those out in a sec. I need some maple syrup. That's going to help sweeten this chia seed jam. And then we're going to use these chia seeds. So that's what we need. And I'll talk more about these ingredients in just a second. So that's the first step. Let's make sure we have all those ingredients pulled out, those 3 things all ready to go. The second step that you want to do, so don't worry, I'll make sure I'm not leaving you behind. I just want to give you an overview of what we're going to do with these ingredients. We're going to measure everything out, and then we're going to put everything into a pot or a little saucepan here. And then we're going to heat that and let it cook for about 10 or 15 minutes. And so with that, that's going to allow that chia seed jam to cook and thicken and be ready to go on top of our pancake. So the first step is let's get 2 1/4 cup of frozen blueberries all ready. Now I did have some parents email me and say that, you know, they don't have blueberries, but could we use raspberries or could we use strawberries? Absolutely, you can use any berry. I'm using blueberries because I think they taste really good. I know last year, my colleague Melissa Kniff and I did some sports nutrition presentations for the Spring Lake Association, and we talked all about sports nutrition. And so if you remember, this is one of the blueberries are a kind of superfood. So these are the things that give you agility and sort of superpowers. So we need 2 1/4 cups. So I've got about 2 cups there. And then I'll just add a little bit more. So you go ahead, follow along. I can't see any of you, of course, because we are recording this, but just start measuring out your blueberries. Now, when it comes to something like this, you don't need to be super 100% exact. So an approximate measurement in this recipe will be just fine. So 2 1/4 cup of frozen blueberries. So blueberries, frozen fruit, is an awesome food to keep in your freezer because they don't go moldy. They typically last a little bit longer than fresh blueberries or fresh raspberries. Those are also really expensive. So keeping these, watching if they go on sale, and then you can just maybe stock up on them. They're great in this chia seed jam. They're also really good in smoothies. They're great as a snack. You can put them with yogurt. So all kinds of really good things that you can do with this. So to the frozen blueberries that I've popped into my pan, I'm gonna add in about a tablespoon of maple syrup. So the purpose of the maple syrup, of course, is to sweeten it. If you don't care for maple syrup, you could use honey instead. And you could also just use, so the purpose of it is to sweeten it. So you could just use brown sugar as well. You could use white sugar. So just sweetening it. And I'm suggesting to start with a tablespoon. Now, as part of cooking, you want to be tasting food along the way. And so as we cook this up, you can do a little bit of a taste test and just see, does this taste sweet enough for you? And if it does, perfect. And if you feel that your taste preferences is to have it sweeter, then you definitely can add some more sweetener in. But I would start with less. You can always add in more, but you can't take it out afterwards. So some frozen blueberries, some maple syrup, and now we're going to add in chia seeds. Now these chia seeds, these are really neat little seeds. They've got a healthy kind of fat in them called omega-3 fats, which is a special kind of fat that helps to keep your body really healthy on the inside. They also contribute some really good fiber. So that's really important as we look at why are we adding in these ingredients. So we're just going to mix it together like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put it over, I'm going to suggest sort of low heat, just because it's going to cook while we're making our pancakes. The reason I suggested we make this is a couple of reasons. I watched one of my children put loads of pancake syrup on their pancakes, and pancake syrup makes things taste really yummy, but they're pure sugar and there's not a lot of nutrition in there. So what are some other ways we can maybe add in layers of nutrition on top of our pancakes, especially when it comes to before hockey or after hockey, especially after hockey? And what you're going to find is that these chia seeds, when they are exposed to liquid, they're going to swell up to like 9 times their size. So it's going to actually thicken it. So the blueberries themselves are going to break down and the chia seeds are going to thicken up. So it's going to be like a jam. So we can put this on our pancake, but we can also put this inside our yogurt. We can put this on our toast, and you can just eat it like that as well. So give it a stir, mix it all up. And then we're going to pop it in onto our stovetop for like about 10 minutes or so. We're just going to watch it. So cooking is really multi-sensory, and what that means is it's not just we're blindly following a recipe. We have to look, we have to listen, we have to smell. If you smell it burning, then you definitely want to turn the heat down. So just, as you're following the recipe, you want to be sort of paying attention as well. Okay, so I'm going to put this on my stovetop, and I'll put it on low heat, and then we're going to get ready for our next recipe. Okay, and I think I'm going to actually cover that. Okay. All right. So I can't see any of you, and I have no way to gauge where you are in the process. So maybe I'll just keep talking for a little bit while you're doing that transitional step. As I was mentioning, The blueberries are a form of superfood, which can help things like your peripheral vision. So when you're skating and you're shooting and you're playing, you know, if you're skating up the ice and you've got somebody kind of in your peripheral vision, you know, you might want to make a move so that they can't take that puck away from you. So watching for that peripheral vision and what you eat can actually help support having a good peripheral vision. Breathing and having good superfoods to help you breathe properly. And immunity. Oh my goodness, who's not thinking about immunity right now with this whole COVID-19 pandemic? I think we're all looking about how we can keep ourselves super healthy. And certainly with the foods that you eat and don't eat, those can help support you. Okay, so I think I see that there's a chat there. Maybe I'll just have a quick look. Your timing is great for us. Oh, thank you. Okay, good. Timing is okay. Okay, good. That is so awesome. Thank you for that. Okay, so the chia seed jam is looks like that's cooking away. So we're gonna move to our next recipe because we got 2 more to do. So the next recipe is on page 5, and these are the protein power pancakes. So when I was designing the recipes and thinking about like which recipes should we do today, my kids thought that maybe pancakes is something that, you know, most kids tend to like, and there's lots of options for dialing up the healthfulness of them. So again, now we've got a longer list of ingredients here. So this is where it's really helpful to look at what is the, do you have everything pulled out? So of course, by the magic of TV, I have my stuff all taken out, but I don't have it all measured. So I'll be working with you to do that. But one of the things that you're going to notice is that these pancakes is a quick bread, which means it's going to be leavened or risen with what we call a chemical leavener. So that is in this recipe, baking soda. So baking soda, when it's exposed to heat, when it's exposed to acid, it's going to release carbon dioxide, and that's what makes your pancakes rise. So what you'll notice, have a look at your ingredient list. You need whole wheat flour, you need baking soda, you need a little bit of salt and some cinnamon. Actually, Kurt, can you go get me some cinnamon? Kurt, can you go get me some cinnamon and some salt? Thanks. So those ingredients, the first 4 ingredients, those are the dry ingredients, and those are going to get measured and stirred together in a separate bowl. Then we're going to have what we call our wet ingredients, and that's going to be our eggs, our cottage cheese, our plain Greek yogurt, our milk, thank you, and our butter. I'm going to need you to do some butter in a sec. So when we're measuring the dry ingredients, they're going to go in one bowl, and then in our separate bowl we're going to put the wet ingredients. And so it's just like if you've ever done muffins, you want to mix the ingredients separately. Once those are all measured and mixed together, I have butter over here, I'll let you know. Then we're going to mix them all together. The key thing with quick breads is you don't want to over mix the wet with the dry. Otherwise, you overform the gluten and it can make for a tough pancake. So anyways, that's a lot of detail. Let's start by measuring out 2 cups of whole wheat flour. So you could use like all-purpose flour here, but I chose the whole wheat flour because for a couple of reasons. One is it's got more B vitamins in it. It's got more vitamins and minerals inside of it, more so than just the white flour. The other thing is most of us doctor up our pancakes so much that it doesn't, like, you don't taste it as much. So I'm going to, you give me a spoon, please, Kurt? I'm just gonna get, so if I'm gonna show you this, I should show you how to do this properly. You wanna sort of mix up your flour a little bit. Technically, we should sift it, but we're just going to try to be practical here because that's important to be practical. The other thing I'm going to do as well, you can see I've got a baking tray here. One of the tips and tricks when you're working in the kitchen is to try to be a little bit clean along the way so you have less of a mess at the end. So another trick you can use is measure over top of a baking tray. And the benefit of that is that if anything falls and makes a bit of a mess, you can just clean up your baking tray, but you don't have like this big mess all over in your kitchen. So we're going to do about 2 cups of the whole wheat flour. So you can see what I'm doing is I'm spooning it in. Most of us would probably just scoop this and level it off. But when we do that, sometimes we just get a little bit more flour than what we need. And when you have more flour than what you need, that can make for a bit of a tough and a bit of a dry pancake. So no one wants a dry pancake. So you can see I'm already starting to make a mess. My mom always told me that I was a bit of a messy cook. Yep, there we are, making a bit of a mess. Okay, so you can see I'm kind of overfilling it like that. Move that over there. And then what I'm going to do is just sort of level it off. Okay, so this volume is 2 cups, it's 500 mils. So this is what we call a dry measure. And I'm going to pop it into my big bowl here. So then I'm going to add in some baking soda. So baking soda, that is, again, it's a kind of chemical leavener. It just helps to release the carbon dioxide so that we get that nice rising of the pancake. And we need a teaspoon of baking soda. So I'm going to reach in there, take a tablespoon and pop that in here. Move that over there. Okay, and then cinnamon and salt. Rick, do you want to get me some salt, please? So salt, why would you need salt in this? The purpose of the salt is actually just to stabilize the rising of the flour. So when you create more of that carbon dioxide, it just helps to stabilize that nice rising. Okay, we got nice big salt granules that I think honestly, I'm gonna leave the salt out for today, but that's just because mine's not finely granulated. So you can see I've got that already mixed in together. And that's all we need to do to start with. And then we're gonna add in all kinds of wet ingredients in a separate bowl. Okay, so I'm gonna move that over here. Okay, so the next ingredient, we're gonna do 4 eggs. So your parents will probably know Three's Company was a show that we probably all kind of grew up with. And so it was from watching that show that I learned how to crack eggs with one hand. But what actually matters is that you just crack the egg and you get it in without the shells. Because if there's a shell in there, we know that it'll be it, that we'll taste it. Okay, so I have 4 eggs in there. And I'm gonna take a fork, please. So, and then we're gonna add in a cup of cottage cheese. Thanks so much. So let's kind of whisk that together. You could use a whisk, you could use a fork. And we just wanna sort of mix that all up. So as you can see here, we've got the eggs, we've got lots of protein and a little bit of good healthy fat coming in here. So this is, again, when we talk about protein, protein is bone building and tissue building nutrient. So it helps to build and repair our muscles, which are often working really hard when we're playing hockey. Okay, so I'm going to use a cup of cottage cheese. Now, cottage cheese is something that is really very rich in protein. And so this is something that can be a kind of a neat staple to have in your house. So I'm going to add just about a cup. Now, it's kind of got a taste that takes maybe a little bit of getting used to. Some of the people that I work with, they like to put a little bit of cinnamon in there and then just chop up an apple, and there's a really fast snack. So we're going to add that into here. When this melts, when this cooks, the cheese curds will soften, so it won't be as lumpy, but there will still be some lumps. So if you find that you're really sensitive to textures, or you feel really put off by just the look of that, another option is to mix all your wet ingredients, and then you can just throw it through the blender. And then that will just make it nice and smooth, and that might be a little easier for you to enjoy. So now let's say you don't have any cottage cheese, but you have yogurt. Then you could remove the cottage cheese and just use all of the Greek yogurt. So we go through buckets of this stuff in the house. So we tend to use, we buy the really big container of Greek yogurt. But so we are going to be adding in about a cup of the plain Greek yogurt. Plain Greek yogurt is, again, has a lot of protein in it. And when there's lots of protein, that again is like a muscle builder that helps to build and repair our tissues. So when the pancakes are cooking, we're going to do, we'll talk a little bit more about when it might be better to have protein, and when would you maybe not want to have protein. So now, could you use a flavored Greek yogurt? You definitely could, but I find pancakes are sweet enough as they are. You probably don't need the extra sweetness from the flavored yogurt, so you might want to save that for when you just want to eat a dish of yogurt. I know we do a lot of Greek yogurt by itself in the house, and we do sweeten it, whether with a little bit of honey or maple syrup. It just allows you to control how much sweet you like to have in your yogurt. Okay, so about a cup. And then we're going to add in 1.5 cups of milk. So we're using a 1% milk, but use the milk you have in your family, including if your family prefers to have like almond milk or soy milk, or like a plant-based milk, that's also fine. The nutritional value of it is just a little bit less in protein for sure. It is less in protein, but any milk will do here. You can see here how much bone building nutrition we're adding here. We've got yogurt, we've got cottage cheese, and we've got milk. So this is really, really good, which as you go further up into hockey, like when you go crunching into those boards, boy, you sure hope your bones are nice and strong. Okay, 1.5 cups of milk. I'm gonna take this guy. So you can see that with the flour, I was using a dry measure. Now I'm gonna use a wet measure, or a liquid measure. So I'm gonna use 1.5 cups of the milk. So you probably learned this in your science class, that you wanna kind of come down at eye level to the base of the meniscus. So the lowest point of the milk in the measuring cup. We're going to add that in. And then we're going to do 1/4 cup of butter melted. So when it comes to fat, you do need a little bit of fat to help get a nice texture in your pancake. So you'll probably notice that the side of your butter actually has a built-in butter measurer to it. So we want 1/4 cup that we're going to melt. So let's have a look at this. I actually have an extra butter measure, but you should have one on the side of the butter, and we would like to have 1/4 cup. So let me just measure that. And then I'm going to throw it into the microwave and just melt that. Where's my cup? There it is, it goes in there. Okay, would you like to melt that for me? Okay, so I don't know, 1/4 cup will take maybe 30 seconds to melt. Now, let's just say that that's a little bit too much fuss for you. If that feels really fussy, another option is to use just a neutral flavored oil, so something like a grapeseed or a canola oil. But you might just use more like 3 tablespoons, so just a little bit less. So we are gonna melt that away. While we're waiting for it to melt, we're gonna just give this liquid ingredients a nice stir. And the next thing that I would like you to do when that's done is we're gonna start heating our pan. So I know we're not ready to cook them just yet, but when it comes to pancakes, like a really, really nice warm pan, sort of low to medium heat, thank you so much, is a really nice temperature to be working with to cook nice golden brown pancakes. So when you have a moment, turn on your pancake pan to, I'm gonna put it just above the low. Now, here's something else. You've got a really hot liquid here. And butter's gonna make it taste really yummy. But because it's hot, what's gonna happen when you add heat to eggs? It can scramble them, and we don't want cooked eggs. We're gonna cook them in the pancake. So just as you're mixing it with one hand, we're gonna just slowly drizzle in melted butter. Okay, and so we've got some good, yummy, yummy fat in there. That is important in our diets, and butter's just gonna make it taste really awesome. Okay, so now we've got, you can see, we've got all our dry ingredients together. We've got all our wet ingredients together, and we've got our pan that's starting to heat. So we've got everything all ready, and now what we're gonna do is we're just going to add that in. Doesn't sound very nice when I'm adding that in. And then we're gonna mix it, but here's the thing. You wanna mix it, but not over mix it. So it doesn't need to be smooth. You can just do it with a spoon or a spatula, but just mix it until it's just mixed. It doesn't need to be smooth. In fact, the batter's likely to be lumpy. And then this is gonna make a lot of batter and a lot of pancakes, which in my house probably won't last very long with all the appetites these days. But what's great about this recipe, so it looks like a lot, and if you've got smaller appetites in the house, you can make up a batch of these and then freeze them, and then you can have like your own pancake kind of toaster pancakes or toaster waffles. Okay, so just gonna make sure everything is, it's not gonna be totally mixed together, as I said. But what I can see is that I'm already, because of the some of the acid in here, I'm already getting carbon dioxide bubbles, which is so great. And we're getting some of that acidity from that yogurt. Okay, so I think that looks really good. I'm just gonna make sure the bottom doesn't have a lump of pancakes, flowers at the bottom. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna travel over here to my stove top. Come on, you can move me over. Yep, I've got my IT person here helping to move me over. You can see how messy the rest of my house is. Probably a good time to check on your chia jam. Okay, so there we are. And move this guy over. And so I am using a non-stick pan. So with pancakes, things like a non-stick pan are really nice, because then you can just use a little bit of the fat without it having to stick too much. So I do have like a vegetable oil spray that I'm using. If you don't have this, you can just, again, add a little dollop of butter at the bottom. Just turn that down. Okay. So this is, again, make sure your hair is tied back. Yeah, that feels really nice to me. So it doesn't take long for it to heat up, but just having a nice preheated pan makes this all nice and ready to go. So I'm just gonna take my little soup ladle and put that in here. So I can hear that it's warm. It's not an angry sizzle. We don't want an angry sizzle, because when we have an angry hot sizzle with pancakes, then we get really brown pancakes, and that's the kind you want your brother or sister to eat, but you don't want to eat that, right? So we're gonna add in, I think I'll just do 2 for now. The other thing that you might find with these is that because there's the yogurt and there's the yogurt and the cottage cheese that it might just take a little longer to cook. So when you want it to cook all the way through, you have to adjust the temperature of your pan. Otherwise, the outside's going to cook before the inside's ready. So, and this is where cooking really becomes multi-sensory, because you're watching to see, is there any like steam coming? You're watching your pancakes to see if there's any bubbles coming up. I don't think they're quite ready to be turned over yet. You'll know, well, we'll check in a sec for when they're ready to be turned over. But you're also listening. You're listening for, can you hear that there's a little bit of cooking happening? Or like I said, is there like no noise? In which case you might want to turn up the temperature of your pan. Okay, so this is where you might want to adjust it, and I suspect that maybe you've made pancakes in your lifetime before. So depending on the temperature of your pan and the kind of pan, certainly darker pans are going to cook way faster than a light cooking pan. So I have a darker pan and it was preheating. So I'm going to have a little look. Yeah, I'm going to flip it over. So you want to be nice and confident and then flip it over. Need to go back to pancake school. It was a bit messy. I think maybe I'll just leave it. Leave it for maybe another 20 seconds or so, and then I'm going to flip it over again. So these pancakes, this is a really great recipe to enjoy, especially after a hockey game or a hockey practice, because it's got that whole grain, like that whole wheat flour in it. So that's a slow release carbohydrate, which is going to give you long lasting energy. So if you were to have this just before your ice time, you might find that it's kind of stuck in your stomach and it's not digesting fast enough. So this is a great recipe for like a couple hours before hockey or after a hockey skate. But right before, it might be a little bit heavy. Okay, so we are going to flip it over now. Get underneath there. Good. So I can hear that. It's got a nice little sizzle. I think there is an art to making perfectly round pancakes. The first pancakes in these batches are going to be sort of differently shaped. They're not going to be perfectly shaped, but that's okay. They're still going to taste yummy. While we're waiting for that, while we're waiting for the pancakes to cook, let's have a look at our chia jam. Good. So I'm going to just put that into my bowl. I'll take it off the heat. My blueberries have certainly broken down. And they thickened up as well. So kind of more like a sauce, which is great. Whenever you have hot pans and hot pots, you want to keep those on a flat surface. You wouldn't want to put that right in your sink. Otherwise, that's going to warp the bottom of your pans. So, and then that ruins them. That's when they get kind of a little bit wobbly. So you want to keep them nice and flat. Okay, so let's just have a look. Typically, you just want to flip them once. I'm going to flip these guys over one more time. So you want to just cook them all the way through. And the only way to see is, like, there's a little bit of browning on the outside. That's going to give that nice, yummy, cooked sort of golden pancake flavor. And you can kind of touch it, like it's got some structure to it, so you know that it's cooked. And worst case scenario, if you took it off and it wasn't ready to be eaten, you could pop it back in. So that's how we do these pancakes. I'm sure you've done them before, but what I'm really excited about this time is that we've layered in a little bit more nutrition than a typical pancake. We've got the whole grain, whole wheat flour. And then we've also got a whole bunch of extra protein in there. So this is a really awesome meal for after. So I know we have a whole bunch of more pancake syrup left, or pancake batter left to cook. I'm going to turn off my pan for now because I'm going to show you the last recipe. You don't want to sit here all night and watch me cook pancakes. So we're going to move me back over here and we're going to do our final recipe, which is our apple nachos. Okay. Again, we can, whoops. Okay, right on. We're going to move this guy over here. And the final recipe that we're going to do is our apple nachos. So if you're just transitioning, I'm going to just take a bit of a breather. This recipe is your last recipe in your package. So before, maybe, just a minute, please. No problem. No problem. Is the chia jam done? Great question. So I will wait for everybody, so no problem. The chia jam, so this is kind of how it thickened up. So it's kind of like a sauce. And my idea is rather than using a maple syrup, I'm going to use a little bit of the chia jam over top. Now, I think you probably could mash this if you wanted to. It's going to be hot, so please don't pop that in your mouth right away. Otherwise, you probably will burn your mouth. I think when you're doing a couple of different recipes at the same time, it is important to be, if there's two of you, it helps where you're like, if you forgot about your chia jam, it could burn. So only do as many recipes as you can sort of manage. And cooking is really like a muscle. The more you do it, the easier it gets. You just think about the first time you put on a pair of skates, you weren't able to tear up and down the ice the way you are able to do that now. So just through practice and through skating drills and lots and lots and lots of practice, you were able to get stronger at skating. And it's the same thing in the kitchen. So I suspect many of you already know how to make pancakes, but now we've got a new recipe that adds in a little bit more protein in your pancake, and that is really good for building and repairing your muscles and your bones and your joints and your tendons, you know, before and after hockey. Plus you're growing. So, so that's sort of what our pancake looks like. And just while we're waiting, you know, another pancake topper that you can put on is some banana. So just, you can just, you know, we all like a sweet pancake and we don't like dry pancakes for sure, but you can add in a little bit of extra banana there. You got another layers of nutrition there. Okay, I'll see. I think she says you can freeze. Yeah, you can freeze the pancakes. I've never tried freezing the batter, but I've never tried freezing the pancake batter. I think it would probably waste a little bit, to be honest with you, if you froze it. You can always try it. I don't think it'd be wrong. You might just find that you might need a little bit more leavener in there when it thaws out. But if you're going to freeze these, just freeze them in a single layer and then put either wax or parchment paper in between the layers so that you can grab them like one at a time. Okay, I'm going to move that guy over there. How else are we doing here? I think she said we can freeze the leftover pancakes. No, actually what I was hoping we do is, like, after we do our final dish, that you could go back and finish making all the pancakes. It's a little, well, it's snack time at some point in someone's house. So the last, maybe can somebody just give me a bit of a note in the chat to see where you're all at with the recipes? Ready? Oh, I love it. Awesome. Okay, so the last recipe is what I call apple nachos. And this is a great recipe for, like, after school. There's no cooking required, but there is using some knives. So a couple of things when you're working with knives, Knives are a skill. Knife skills is something that over time we need to learn how to use. When you're a younger athlete, you definitely want to have the help and support of your parent or caregiver. But as you get older, you'll have more dexterity in your hands to be able to use the knife. So one of the things you can do is take a piece of paper towel that's wet and put that underneath your cutting board. What that does is it helps to anchor your cutting board so it's not moving around. When you've got a cutting board that's moving around, that gets unsafe. So putting a wet piece of paper towel underneath can help, or even like a non-slip mat can be really helpful. The other thing is, if you don't have a pair of shoes on right now, I'd love you to have a pair of shoes on, because if you drop the knife, we will hurt your feet, and that would be very bad. So there's 3 ingredients here. We've got apple, we've got peanut butter, and we've got some cereal. So you can you can cut up your apple in different ways. I've got this really neat apple core that I love. And so I'm gonna just core my apple. Now, if you don't have one of these, I'm gonna show you another variation. But what I love about this one is you can open this thing up, so it's easier to get the apple out. Then what I'm gonna do is pop my apple on the side. And so when you're working with a knife, I'm using a chef's knife here. In your knife hand, you want to shake hands with it. You want to have a firm grip. You don't want to be down here. It's kind of like choking up on a baseball bat. You want to go up so that you've got a firm grip, because you want to be in charge of that knife. This is your guide hand. This is the hand that's going to hold either your fruit or your vegetable and keep it in place. So the key thing here is to have a nice curl on your guide hand, so that if the knife were to slip, there'd be way less chance that you're cutting your fingers, because we're going to cut fruit or vegetables. We're not cutting body parts. So we're going to hold it nice and firmly here. And then we're going to just cut little apple rings, just like that. Now, apples is a fruit that when it's exposed to oxygen, it's going to brown. So this is probably something you want to make in the moment, meaning just before you eat it. So you can see here now, it's getting a little bit, like I've got less of a stable surface. So I'm going to just flip it over this way. Now, I always say this in all the classes I do, a dull knife is actually way more dangerous than a sharp knife. The dull knife is like a dull pencil. So we want to have a nice sharp knife. So we've got our apple rings. We're just going to pop that over on top of our plate. And then I'm going to put over some peanut butter. So I've suggested an amount, but you can see that this is more of a cooking or like a preparation method rather than like an exact recipe. When we're doing things like pancakes or muffins, we need to be exact because we're baking. That's more like chemistry, whereas this is more of just like snack assembly. So about a tablespoon of peanut butter. So I am using an all natural peanut butter, which honestly, when I was a kid, I didn't use this kind. I used probably the kind that I suspect many of you are actually using, which is a thicker kind. I do actually prefer the more natural peanut butter now. And one of the things that you can do to help make it, because sometimes it separates, you can store it upside down and that helps to like mix it all together. So I've just drizzled it over top like that. If you're allergic to peanut butter or a peanut-free house, you could use sunflower seed butter, or I guess you could use tahini paste. I'm not sure that would taste really awesome, but you can always try it. And then a quarter of a cup of granola. So this is actually, I'm using a cashew go lean. I'm not sponsored, by the way. And you can see I'm not actually even measuring it. I just have to give you like some general guidance. And now I've got a snack that's got some nutrition in there. I've got some energizers. So an energizer is a food with some carbohydrate in it. That's going to give you energy to go, skate those hard laps. So we've got energizers from the apple. We've got some good healthy fat with a little bit of protein in the peanut butter. And then we've got a little bit of crunch. as well as some more Energizer coming from that cereal. Now, how easy was that? I think that probably took us less than 5 minutes. So this is a way healthier snack, especially after school, than something like, it's a way less processed than some other kinds of snack foods. So if we can add in, especially fruits and veggies, that's probably the nutrient that I see, or the kind of food that I see kids maybe not having quite enough of. And what you'll find is that if you have energizers and superfoods and muscle builders as part of your hockey sports nutrition way of eating, you might find that like you have just a little bit of a competitive edge over another hockey association. So there we go. We've got our apple nachos. We've got our peanut butter, not peanut butter, we've got our protein powered pancakes with our chia seed jam. And that's what we have for our snack, or maybe a late dinner tonight, or maybe even breakfast. So I'm wondering if anyone has any questions. I'm watching the chat box over here, and wondering if any, for sure, if you have any questions, just shoot a note in there. I know we have lots left to do. We have our pancakes left to cook up. The other thing you can do, this is, it said it was a recipe, it's really not a recipe, is as part of this is adding in some milk as a side, whether just to help, again, quench your thirst, add in layers of, again, more protein, as well as bone building nutrition. Pancakes are delicious and a hit. Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. So when we have pancakes, you know, I like to say to people, I am not here to be anybody's food cop. And there's a time and a place for all kinds of foods, but when it comes to hockey foods, I really encourage people to kind of dial in their nutrition when it comes to before hockey. We're not talking during hockey today, but before and after hockey is definitely when you want to dial in and really focus on really good whole food approaches. And again, cooking is a muscle. So you want to exercise that muscle. As well as you want to make sure you're going the whole 9 yards, which is to help clean up. So before I let you go, unless there's other questions, you'll see that I did have the ingredients listed for a pumpkin muffin, and I knew we wouldn't really have time to do that today. So pre-hockey pumpkin muffins, these are awesome. These are great for breakfast, good for a snack, good to add into your lunchbox. You can freeze these when they're cooked, and you can, our family apparently hates raisins. I like raisins, but not everybody else does. You can make these like even with white chocolate chips and some cranberries, dried cranberries, that makes it a little bit festive, or you could use some dried fruit. But these are really, really great, and I've included all the ingredients for you, and I suspect you bought them all. So that's awesome. Like this is all stuff that I hope that all of you young athletes, you know, continue to get dirty in the kitchen and start practicing your culinary, you know, flexing your culinary muscles, because it is an awesome competitive advantage that you can have over your competitors. Do you have any recipes for a peanut butter granola bites to make, like, use up these ingredients? Yes, you bet. I do have peanut butter granola balls. I've got some, I do have one on my website, so I can definitely send that out for sure. Do you have any recipe? Oh, wait, let me see. Thank you, it was fun. And my pancakes they look a little bit dusty. It was fun, and my pancakes look a bit dusty. I destroyed the pancakes. Well, Alexis, that's okay. And that's how we learn. So if the pancakes were destroyed, it's possible that your pan wasn't hot enough. So maybe, you know, turn the heat up maybe a little bit, and maybe you might have also flipped it too early. So maybe just wait before you flip it. But that's how you learn, is by like having little flops in the kitchen, but they taste good. Oh, I'm so good. I'm so glad. I also wreck the pancakes. So pancakes is something that it is an art. And so that's like mastering the temperature of the pan is really, really helpful. And so that's how you learn, right? It's you know, all of us have had flops in the kitchen. You are so welcome, everybody. You're so welcome. So I do have recipes on my website, energizenutrition.ca/recipes. I actually do specialize in midlife health, but I also have 2 hockey players, and I'm super passionate about helping kids to really eat well to fuel their best hockey game. You are so welcome. Thanks everybody for all the effort you made to get out here tonight. You know, we don't know when we're going to get hockey back, but we can still be training for hockey whenever our season actually arrives. So let's stay hopeful, and let's keep practicing the sports nutrition part of our game. Awesome. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. It's so awesome. Yeah. Have fun tonight. Have fun cooking in the kitchen. This is supposed to be something that, you know, it's something that all of us need to learn how to do. And if there is more interest, like I'm happy to do more, and, you know, we can do something more like cooking. Today was a little bit more focused on quick breads, but doing things like, you know, fajitas might be helpful so that we actually have some, you know, dinner or lunch skills as well. Awesome. Awesome. So I think we all have lots of pancake batter left to cook. So I know that's what I'll be doing for the next 15 or 20 minutes or so. I'm really excited that you were all here. And, you know, I'm just looking over at my, my blueberries here, and they're quite thick. You can see how much that thickened up from just a tablespoon of the chia seed. It's hot, so I'm not going to eat it by itself, but even that by itself might be a nice little, sweet little snack. Pancakes are delish. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. If you use your jam on your pancakes with the drizzled peanut butter, it's amazing. Oh, that's awesome. I love drizzled peanut butter. Actually, we all use peanut butter on our pancakes in this house. Whoops. So I stored everything upside down, and you can see that I forgot about that. Yeah, I think that's awesome. Do you have any vegan recipes? So one thing I didn't say about the chia seeds is that a tablespoon of the chia seeds plus 3 tablespoons of liquid helps to make an egg replacer. So we could replace one of the eggs. Now, I don't think that we could replace 4 eggs with the chia seed jam. That would be a lot. So I'd have to think about that. And then, I mean, you could certainly use a coconut yogurt. Coconut yogurt wouldn't have as much protein in it, but you could use that. And then you could use like a plant-based milk. If you're looking to add in more protein, a soy milk will have an approximate comparable value of protein. Things like almond milk, oat milk, cashew milk, they're actually usually quite low in protein. So they're fine to drink, but just if you believe that you're getting protein from there, just have a look at your label, because it's probably more like 1 gram per 250 mLs. We would do another recipe, something, I can't say that far. Station. We would do another recipe station. Do you have any vegan recipes? Thanks, you're welcome. So maybe Jody, we can stop recording, and we can just let everybody loose to go cook in the kitchen.